Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Never met her before.
She's an actress. She's an author. She's a mom. Ladies and gentlemen,
she's
Gia.
a wife.
And my wife. Yes, Gia.
Hello.
Welcome.
Gia what? That's just one
Thank
name? She's
you.
like Madonna, Beyonce,
She's like
just
Madonna,
one name?
Beyonce,
Okay. How nervous are you, sir? Seriously.
I know he's been acting real weird all morning.
I'm fine.
Well, you know what?
No.
You guys have a book out, Real Life, Real Love, Life Lessons on Joy, Pain, and the Magic that holds us together. And I've been dying to ask you this question, Gia, in person,
Oh, boy,
in
here we
this
go.
room. How do you feel about Charlamagne and Envy flirting with each other every day?
It kind of turns me on.
What? We didn't expect that answer.
Now I'm nervous. What the hell?
I have that effect on people.
Okay.
Explain.
No, I mean, I think it's a little strange, but I'm amused by it.
It's just brotherly love.
Yes,
That's all.
I'm amused by it.
Does
That's
anything
all.
go too far ever? Or?
No, it's all in good fun and entertainment.
That's all it is.
I don't mind it.
So you didn't mind that when he gave me the ass?
First of all, context, please.
Or
Context.
God,
actually.
I didn't know
Everybody
that.
doesn't watch the show every day. Context, please. Okay?
When he
Wait, can you guys soundbite that?
when he gave me a mold of his ass.
That's right. And it wasn't my ass. It was a mold of a ass. Yes.
I thought it was a mold of your actual.
No, my shit ain't that fat. No.
And then what about when they touch each other and stuff?
That's never happened.
That we don't touch
We
each
don't
other.
touch
Stop
each
it.
other.
You just
I've
making stuff
never
up.
seen them touch
That
each
hasn't
other.
happened.
No.
You want to tell me something I need to know?
Well, no, they like rub up, brush against each other if they're walking out the door.
That's
Sometimes
not true.
they
No,
go
we
in
don't.
Threaten
the,
to rub up against each other.
Yeah,
we don't
we
ever
did.
do it.
they go in the revolving door together.
That
You know how
happened
you
one
say-
time by accident.
Explain that. Now I need answers.
It was stupid. I don't even know how that happened. It was really stupid. It was really dumb.
That had to be very intentional.
No, it wasn't. I don't even know how
I don't know how it happened.
One is in,
We was in
and then one makes his
the
way
revolving
in.
door together, walking around. It was so stupid and dumb.
You don't just fall
And all we
into
did
a
was
revolving
giggle
door
because it was so
with someone.
stupid. We just had to giggle our way through
But
it.
you just added insult to injury. You're sitting there in the one slot giggling together.
They
was so
shuffle right through
stupid.
together.
Oh, man.
All right, well, whatever,
Anyway,
guys.
back to the
boy.
matter at hand.
I don't lie.
Real life, real love. What is that magic that holds y'all together, you think? How would you describe
You
it?
know, whenever I find that people come to our house or are around us, I think they're kind of surprised at how much fun we have together. I find him to be very charming and charismatic. And one of the things that I love most about him is his boyish nature. So we really have a lot of fun together, and we always have since we first met. The first week we spent together, I thought to myself, like, wow, he's a lot of fun. Like he's like a friend, you know, and that's part of the magic.
You knew that this was the person you were going to spend the rest of your life with.
After about 2 weeks of knowing him, yes.
But he knew before
Yeah.
y'all even spent a day together.
I did.
Explain before we even spent a day together.
Well, when I first seen you, I wrote in the book that I thought you were beautiful and amazing. And the first time I saw you, you were actually running track. And for people that don't know, track. She used
Explain
to
track.
That was a good one. I like that.
It was a skimpy outfit, and Gia had big double D's, and I would basically stalk her outside and just watch her run track and watch her breast bobble.
I don't like that word. Don't say stalk. You
Yeah,
wasn't
it's weird.
stalking
Yeah,
her.
but that's
He
actually
was.
what he was
a
doing.
young man.
It was actually stalking, and I would see him. I would
stalking.
see him sitting with his
appropriate.
friends in this bright blue Con Edison van. Because that's what his parents bought him to transfer his DJ equipment from Sweet 16 to Sweet 16. Because
work
that's
at
what he was
Con Edison.
DJing
He
at the
just had a
time.
Con
I just had a
Edison
Con
van.
Edison van. It
And
was
I
cheap
would
back then.
and I would see it parked behind the fence. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, why is this van there every day at track practice?
Is the power out every day?
Man, yo, that is crazy.
Yes, it was bright blue. He wasn't low. He was not low.
And he was just sitting in the van doing who
And then
knows
one
what.
day he emerged. Actually, babe, do you remember one day like he emerged from the van and approached me and kicked it, and I was like, "Oh, so you're that weirdo?"
That's in the van.
But y'all were both kids.
Yes, yes.
She was 15. I was 16. We went to the same high school. So
And Gia, you got skipped a grade, right?
Yes, I
Right.
skipped a grade.
Okay. All right, so then initially, so Envy, you say that you knew that she was going to be your wife like right away. You think it was before y'all even spoke?
No,
when
when
you
we
were
spoke-
just stalking her?
When
Or?
when we actually spoke, and I found out how beautiful she was inside and outside, and how smart she was, and caring, and she was just that. She was the one. She was the most beautiful thing I ever seen in my life, and the most precious thing. So I was like, this is gonna be my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to get the book, but I do want to explain, how do you keep reinventing the relationship when you start that young? Now Envy's 50 something, you know what I mean? You're much, much younger, but how do you
not
keep
50
how do you
nothing, but go ahead.
reinvent, how do you keep reinventing? And
I think that that's part of the magic. We don't have to try. We don't intentionally, we do a lot of things intentionally and deliberately, but we don't intentionally reimagine the relationship and act on that. The only thing that I would say that we're good about is keeping it sexy and making sure that that part of our relationship doesn't get too monotonous and doesn't get stale. So we have a lot of fun in
Right.
that space, but we don't have to think like, God, how am I going to stop being bored of you? Or how am I going to get to a point where you don't annoy me anymore? He legitimately does not annoy me. I look forward to his phone calls every day. And we probably speak on the phone about maybe 8 or 9, 10 times a day because he's away a lot, so he calls me on his way to the Breakfast Club. He calls me on his way home from the Breakfast Club. He calls me if something happens. He calls me incessantly. And I'm never like, oh, you again. I'm like, oh, it's him again. It's just that feeling that I've always had, that no matter what ups or downs we were going through, that never left me.
Now, he told us a story about the cowboy outfit that he wears.
He told you about that?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah,
The cowboy outfit in college?
with the assless chaps.
There's no assless chaps.
They were.
Yeah, you told us about
Hold
that.
on, wait, Rashawn, did you actually tell them
He
about
did.
that? Like
What
on
did I
air
tell
or in
ya?
private?
I forgot I told y'all about that.
He did.
Because
He
if
said-
it was in private, this is a whole double cross.
yeah,
right
he
now.
told us he dressed up as a cowboy and he had the.
Why are you looking at me like that?
'Cause
Hold
I remember
on.
that day.
Okay.
'Cause I remember that day, because after he told the story, he goes,
Yeah,
and I was like, what?
he did.
When we were in college, we went through a stage where we were doing like a lot of
Role playing.
role playing.
Yeah.
And one night I dared him to be a cowboy. So we went and got the cowboy outfit.
Wow.
He had like the big brown hat, and then he had like the little holsters and everything. And babe, do you remember I took pictures?
Where are those? Are they in the book?
He, about maybe 3 years after, he made me physically burn them on the grill.
Wow.
He put them on the grill and told me I had to light it. Yeah, they don't exist
Don't you
anymore.
wish you still had that?
No.
Envy?
But y'all talk about role play in the book. You say he likes to put on the Rock Nation paper plane hat. And he goes, what's my name? And he wants you to say Jigga.
I didn't contribute to that chapter.
Okay.
No, that wasn't my
Okay.
work. No, I didn't do that.
No.
Okay.
So wait, so he wasn't lying. They were assless chaps.
Yeah, he had it was a whole thing.
I just pulled a U on
looking at
you,
me like
Gia. He did not tell us that.
Damn it, to hell, see? Get my book and you will learn a slew of tactics,
Women
tricks,
are
and
so
techniques
good at that. We act
on
like
how
we
to
know
get what you
something.
want out of life. Okay.
It was a holster, by the way. They were holsters.
Yeah, it was a holster.
What were some other dress up things you guys
All right.
did?
It was more so me
Okay.
dressing up, and he was just like the recipient of that. That was a one little, and that's why it was a dare, because it was kind of supposed to be a joke, but he never really dressed up.
Did
One
you
time
really
I was a
burn the
nurse and
pictures?
he was a doctor. That
Okay.
was once. Huh?
Did you really burn the pictures?
I really did.
Really?
In front of him. Mhm.
Wow.
You didn't have
I'd have
copies.
kept those just
Put
in
it,
case.
I would have. On.
Just in case.
Put those in the
I have
safe.
the negatives. See, I
Okay,
wasn't going to
okay.
share that. But in
Okay,
case anything
okay.
ever goes left in our relationship,
is no
I have that. I will
negative.
ruin his entire reputation.
Or you
I'll never be able to work again.
It might cross him over to a new audience.
Goodness gracious.
Oh, we got that covered.
Definitely.
So how
We
was
got
it
that-
writing
we got
this
that
book for
audience
both
covered.
of you? Because I know COVID hit. You guys had planned to put this out earlier, and then COVID hit. So what was it like for y'all actually sitting down and reliving some of these moments?
Well, COVID and the quarantine was great for us and our family. It affected different people differently, but we really realized that we could spend damn near 100% of our time together and love it. When the quarantine lifted, everybody in my house was kind of sad, you know, about that. But we did take that opportunity to write the book. And some of it was fun. It was nice to be creative and get your thoughts down on paper. It was work, but a lot of it was difficult. I'm a very open person. I'm a realist. Rashawn, I think, had a difficult time because he had to relive a lot of the negative things that transpired in our relationship. And he can tend to be surface in some respects, where you ask him a question, he gives you an answer. I'm a lot more of an in-depth person. I think critically about things. And when we would go over these chapters that he's assigned to write, I would ask him questions like, okay, you can't just answer it with a yes or a no or a simple blanket. Like, one question would mean 10 more questions to really get to the meat. And, I had to keep reiterating, we're writing this book so that people have something tangible, a reference point for them to make changes in their lives if necessary, or to recognize that the person that you're with needs to make changes in their lives. And it was a journey. It was a journey, but I think it was difficult.
Yeah, no, for me it was difficult. I had to relive a lot of the F-boy-ish I put you through. And you forget about a lot of it because you don't have to relive it. But then when you start reliving,
you forget about a lot of it.
You ain't forget.
I ain't forget nothing.
Well, I think I think as men, that's the point, though, right? Because it's like we don't realize how much we do hurt our women when we do
Is
those
that
things.
true, though?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we realize how deep that
That sounds
pain
like an
goes.
okie doke to me.
Nah, it's
No,
not.
I don't think until you actually sit down and have those, uncomfortable conversations, you don't realize how much you
If
infected
your
woman.
wife cheated on you and told you that she would have no idea how much that it stood to hurt you, would that make sense to you?
Probably not, but I mean, men don't make sense.
You believe that? You believe that you're born inherently with like a deficit.
Not a deficit, but I just don't
Of
think
common sense.
I don't think we're thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like that's the sad part.
It's selfish.
And that's what
It is selfish.
that's what keeps you from doing it in the future. You know what I mean? Because you do not want to hurt the woman that you love. And it's so crazy because I saw that with my pops. Like I saw the pain that caused my mom with his infidelity. So in my mind, I was like, damn, I'm about to make the same mistake. So I think it is difficult when you got to relive it because you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to trigger you.
Some people feel.
I don't get triggered though.
Damn.
What?
Right.
No, that scared me just now. I was about to call security.
No, once I got to a point, and it was a process. It was a long process. It was years. But once I got to a point where I accepted that it was my job to move on because I decided to forgive him, and because he had done all of the work and then some to regain my trust, to earn grace from me. I got to a point where I no longer wanted to punish, and I didn't have that inherent need to see him suffer. Because when you hurt, and you say it all the time, hurt people. When you're hurt, you want not just people, you want the person that hurt you to hurt. And anytime that I felt any type of way, I made sure that he felt some type of way. So once I learned how to forgive, and that was a process because I wasn't necessarily a forgiving person. Before, everything was very black and white to me, not very much gray. But once I learned and I understood that that's what was expected from me of God, I had to commit to that and do my best to live up to what forgiveness meant. And that's what set me free. Because when you forgive, you don't forgive to ease the burden from the other person. You forgive to ease the burden from you.
That's real.
What was the work you guys did together? Like, you had to work on forgiveness. And when you said, okay, I'm going to, have to move on from this. But what was the work that he did that let you know, okay, he's serious and, I can finally just say, I'm not getting triggered anymore. I'm going to let this go?
Well, one of the first things was I realized that he understood the impact of what had happened, what he did. He understood it. He didn't just accept it and was accountable for it, but he actually understood. He would do things that a lot of men wouldn't do. He would sit there through those 8-hour conversations locked in a room. He answered every question that I had, and I had a lot of questions. And he answered them all truthfully. And, when you ask somebody a question, and you can tell by their answer because, the answers weren't pretty. Right. They weren't things that I would have wanted to hear. He went through all of the sufferation, as I call it, and he did it until. Because a lot of guys, when they mess up, and a lot of them have told me, I have friends and that have gone through it, it's like, listen, I did it. I apologize. I said I was never going to do it again. I mean that ish.
Right.
But it's like every day I'm being punished. I'm being punished. I'm being reminded. It's like, let it go. I apologize. Like, what more do you want from me? Blood? He never took that approach with me. It was the until you are good, until you are healed. If I have to be a punching bag, I will be that. If I have to be a doormat, I will be that. I will do anything that it makes to survive this because I cannot be without you. And he proved it every single day. It was as though, and he was like this before, but it was even more so during this time. It was as though he communicated to me that the only thing that he wanted was to make me happy. And that's pretty much how he lives his life. He lives his life every day, waking up thinking like, damn, how can I make Gia's life easier today? How can I make Gia happier today? And every day almost, he does something sweet, something special. He works so hard, you guys know. He might sleep 3 hours a night, but he'll come home, and if I have a tray on the bed and I was eating, he'll come into the room and take it down for me. Or be like, babe, can I bring you up some food if I wasn't eating? Like, he does special things. But to answer your question, it was the until, it was the indefinite, and it was the willingness to do any and everything to earn what he lost back.
And was there ever a question in your mind? I know there was a point when you thought, no matter what I do, she's never gonna take me back. Was there ever a time when you were like,
you cry, I'm gonna come over there and hug you. I'm just letting you know. You better hold them tears. I'm gonna hug the shit out of you from the back if you cry in front of your wife.
And then flex your pelvis.
But yes, to answer your question, yes.
Catch that little feel.
At that point, I just, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was like, I have to be honest to at least get my friend back,
Word.
And at that point, I didn't know what Gia was going to do. I thought it was a wrap, but I was like, I still wanted my friend. I still wanted somebody I can talk to. I still wanted a relationship with her that we can bounce things. Like this, she's all I knew since I was 16. So I still wanted my friend back.
And she's Jamaican. So that could have been forever beef.
That could have been forever.
But it's interesting that you didn't kick him out of the house. You were still polite to him. You still wanted to maintain a co-parenting friendship. I feel like that hurts more when you're like, we're not having sex and I might end up with somebody else one day, but we're cool. That hurts more, I think, sometimes than just completely like being nasty to somebody and cutting them off.
Yes. Well, when I found out divorce was imminent, it was never a question. I was raised by a very strong mother who taught me that if a man ever disrespects you to that degree, then you walk. So it didn't matter how much I loved Rashawn and how much I would have missed him. And it didn't matter if I cried every night. It did not matter one iota how I felt. The only thing that was important to me was that I operated with my head and not my heart, and that I did what I always said that I was going to do. So when I found out, when it was confirmed for me, and you can read the book and see the entire...
Yeah, we want you to go get the book.
The entire story. But when he confirmed it, we were in a parking lot. And when I drove away from that parking lot, it was a few days before Christmas, and his mother was at the house helping me decorate because we were hosting that year. But I walked into the house and I told her, I said, Christmas is canceled.
Shit.
And she said, what do you mean Christmas is canceled? And I said, well, I just found out that Rashawn cheated on me and we're getting a divorce. So there's not going to be any Christmas this year. At least I'm not hosting.
Yo, it's wild that people actually cancel Christmas. I thought that was just a figure of speech.
No.
Christmas
If this shit happened, we canceling Christmas.
I canceled Christmas.
You canceled Christmas.
Yes.
Cancel Christmas.
Well, in the sense of us hosting, I wasn't going to cancel it for our children, but
Gotcha.
we didn't have to decorate for 30 people to come over. And my lovely mother-in-law, hi mama, she defended her beautiful son with everything that she could because
Them bitches lying.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And when she said something to that effect, I said, but for the fact that he just told me that it was true. And he came home maybe 20 or 30 minutes later, and it was a whole thing, right? But I was adamant that we were getting a divorce. I contacted an attorney, paid an attorney. It was decided. But thankfully, there were a whole host of things that happened that that convinced me that God had other plans.
What did God say to you?
God didn't say anything to me. See, I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic schools my whole life. So did Rashawn. But I was never spiritual. got to school and said the Hail Mary and the Our Father. And, you know, if I prayed at night, it was like, thank you, God, for all my blessings. Thank you for my life. You know, can I get that new Nintendo for Christmas? You know, I wasn't raised with this this deeply instilled faith where I felt as though I knew God. And I lived differently because I didn't know God in that way. So when God revealed himself to me, and he may have tried for years, you see, but I didn't speak his language. I would have never been able to interpret God trying to reach out to me. So I really believe that this happened so that me particularly, not even Rashawn, so that I could be humbled. You know, because I thought so highly of our relationship. I thought so highly of Rashawn because he was, despite what he did, he was a wonderful husband, a wonderful father. I was utterly blindsided when this happened because there was no red flags within our house. He was thoughtful, affectionate, kind, sweet, generous, romantic, everything that you would want him to be, with a little dose of crazy. And there is that in the book. I'm not saying that it was amazing. I was really blindsided. But when God spoke, he spoke through other people. And when I found out what happened, it's funny, we were being approached for reality shows at the time. And when he took someone's terrible advice to apologize to me on the radio. And make our personal woes private. Our personal woes public.
I didn't know though. I didn't know what he was going through. He'd be in here laying on the floor.
Because you guys would.
I didn't know what he'd be like out of it. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is your problem? I didn't know what it was. So as I'm prodding him, like, what the hell is going on? I didn't know that was coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that was coming.
So when he apologized, you didn't know what he was apologizing for?
He would literally come in here and be like laid out on the floor in the fetal position the whole show. Like, he would not be here with us. He wouldn't be present. And I just knew something was wrong.
Apologize. I was like,
so I'm like, I was like, when he gets on the air, I'm going to ask him on the air what the fuck is his problem. Because I was tired of asking him behind the scenes. And so I asked him on the air. I didn't know that was coming, though.
It was a terrible idea. But maybe it was the same dose of common sense that you guys are talking about.
Right.
Men
guys think
seem to be born with.
Men think differently. Like, that's a grand gesture or something.
Yes. But when it was made public, my one of my best friends, his name is Rashid. He's the husband of my other best friend. Her name is Sasha. He called to see if what he had heard was true because he thought that maybe it was just something being drummed up because we're supposed to be on a reality show or something like that. And when he called, I said, no, everything that you heard is absolutely true. And it's a terrible story. As you said, you know, Rashawn was circling the drain at that time. And Rashid decided to come to New York from California because he lives in LA. But we had a horrible event happen at our home, and you can read about it in the book.
But mind you, Rashid didn't like me. Rashid, you know, he always thought our relationship was toxic, which
you were too controlling.
He thought I was too controlling, which I was at times. But so he didn't like me. So the fact that he flew in to try to save this relationship meant a lot because he already didn't like me.
I thought you said Tyrese saved the relationship.
That too.
Well,
that's coming. That was the sign.
We're telling too much. But
Well, what happened was he flew in. And I didn't want him there because our marriage was ending, and I just wanted to be by myself. But he insisted. He said, I'm flying into Newark International Airport at such and such a time. Come get me. I went and I got him, and that was the start of the biggest change that we needed to go through. He came to our house, and I said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "God sent me here." I said, "Of all people, You're the only person in our lives that didn't champion our marriage. You're the only one that ever told me that maybe he's not the right person for me. Why you?" He said, "Gia, I don't know. I've been praying since I got off the phone with you after that terrible thing happened. And I walked into my boss's office, told him I had to take a leave of absence, went home, packed a bag, and got on a plane and headed here. And it's only through the assignment of God. God spoke to me." I said, "So what does that mean? Like, are you hearing voices? Like, what do you mean God spoke to you?" And he said to me, when God speaks to you, it's as though he puts an overwhelming feeling on your heart. And when he tells you to do something, you don't ask any questions. You just do it. And I said, okay, well, basically, I'm going to have to wrap my mind around that because I didn't have the tools to really understand that. And he stayed with us for about maybe 10, 12 days, and he taught us a lot about God and faith and spirituality and what his assignment was. And he brought in his pastor. Her name was Sister Nancy. She had the same feedback from God when she prayed. And this was all new to me. And I was actually very angry because now I have people in my life that I respect and love that are telling me that I have to stay in a relationship that I'm adamant on getting out of. And it was very, very heavy. I can't describe to you how heavy it was and how insistent he was in his assurance of what God communicated to him.
And to fast forward, Tyrese, same thing. I didn't know, we knew Tyrese for coming up here doing interviews, but I didn't know Tyrese. I didn't have his number. He didn't have a new song, but when he heard me on the radio that day, he called and wanted to speak to Gia. And you can read it in the book because he got us together. But he said the exact same thing, like Tyrese and Rashid was speaking to each other. And it was kind of like those two were the ones to really save my marriage.
And they didn't know each other. And Gia, you had asked for a sign.
Well, that was the thing,
Right.
because I was so angered by what I was hearing. Like, oh, I was a victim being cheated on. Now I'm being victimized again by God, telling me that I have to stay in a relationship, that I'm adamant about leaving. I don't understand this. And I'm not a big crier, but one day I was taking a shower and I began to cry and I began to pray in the way that I was learning how to pray. And I asked God for a sign that I can interpret for myself, so at least it would feel as though I was making my own decision and a decision wasn't being made for me. So I damn near begged for a sign. And then shortly after, Tyrese called Rashawn and asked for him to set something up. And we went to Philippe Chow's. He came in with a backup singer and a guitarist. He performed Stay just for Rashawn and I. Then he sat down for about 4 hours and we had a conversation. And he tried to explain to me how a man can love you and still cheat at the same time, because I didn't really understand that. But at the end of the conversation, I asked him, I said, why are you here? You don't even know if I'm a good person. You don't know if this relationship is even worth salvaging. Why would you do that? You didn't know, Rashawn. You have no dog in this fight. You have nothing to gain or lose. You're supposed to be at a wedding somewhere else. You changed your flights to be here. Why? He said, God sent me here to do this.
Damn.
I said, what do you mean God sent you here to do this? He said, God sent me here. I said, are you hearing voices? He said, no. And then he reiterated verbatim exactly what Rashid said to me in my kitchen that day. And I had to ask Tyrese, I said, is that like in the Bible? Is that what you just said? Is that like a thing that people know? And he said, no. I'm just telling you how I feel. Like, what do you mean? And at that moment, I just like threw my hands up and I said, okay. And I looked at Rashawn and I said, I forgive you. I don't know what that means. I will work on this with you. I don't know how long that will take. I will do what I'm now believing is required of me, but we're going to be in for a ride because I'm not really there, but I can commit to you in this moment because there is not that much coincidence in the world for what just happened.
Thank you, God.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Gia. I'm sorry to my wife, too. I just feel like apologizing. This is just a triggering conversation. I just feel like apologizing. I'm sorry to all women who get cheated.
What did your
I don't know
mom
why
say,
we do the
being that
things
your
we do? I
mom
don't
was
know.
so strong and you knew, initially what you had to do, and your families were so intertwined. So during this time, was she supportive and wanting y'all to get back together, or was she like, Gia, you got to go?
It's funny. Rashawn and I have a podcast called The Casey Crew, and I did an all-girls podcast as a book review last week. And I shared something during that podcast that I don't know if I've even ever told Rashawn. It's a very, very private and personal thought, but I'll share it now since you're asking. My mother passed away in May, and she suffered from dementia for about maybe 14 years. So when this all happened, she had dementia. If my mother didn't have dementia, Rashawn and I wouldn't be married today.
Wow.
Because there would have been no way. God that I could have gone to my mother and told her what happened and told her that I was staying. It could not have happened. It would not have happened. God literally would have had to have appeared in front of me and my mother and convinced both of us, because I wasn't raised that way. So what's personal about this is, to me, is that I believe that whatever Rashawn and I have to accomplish, either through our marriage or through our children, is so great that I think my mother was a casualty of that. I think that God took my mother's sensibilities away from her so that I wouldn't be in a position where I had to make that decision. I just think that what we have to accomplish is so great. And maybe one of those things is this book, because I think that our book will help a multitude of couples. And I think that there are things in there that can be life-changing for people.
Yeah, go get the book, Real Life, Real Love. But I want to talk about something positive, because you said something. Women have intuition. You said you had no clue, though, right?
No.
Okay, but how do you know when he's right? Because I think that's something we don't talk about enough. I think women know when their man is no longer really out there in the streets, when he's actually changed. How did you know he had actually changed?
That's a good question. I didn't, because there was no, aside from his overcommitment to me after the fact, there was no change. He was wonderful then. I had faith in God. And a lot of people, I'll phrase the question a little bit differently, the way that people ask me, how do you know that he'll never cheat again? And I tell them, because once Rashid started something, we carried that torch. Now we're very spiritual together. We pray together every morning before he leaves to come here. And we have an individual relationship with God, each of us. So if he cheats, he doesn't have to worry about me. He has to worry about God. He has bigger fish to fry than me. So when people ask me, what's the best relationship advice that you can give me for my marriage? And it honestly is to keep God at the pinnacle of your marriage. Honor him. Keep your faith in him. Be a child of him. Because when you do that, that is what's going to guide you to be a good person, to be honest, to be committed and faithful. It's to him. Don't be loyal to another human. Be led by goodness, because in that goodness, you will do right by your spouse. And that's how I feel. And that's how I knew. That's how I knew.
Envy, let me ask you, because, for women, we always are like, and like you said, Tyrese was having a conversation how a man can't cheat on you but still love you.
Yeah.
But why? Like, that's something that for women, we always want to know. And I'm sure you had so many conversations.
Well,
I still don't like his answer.
I don't necessarily agree with what Tyrese said. I really feel that until you know the definition of what love really means, I think a lot of times people just say, I love you, and, I love you. But until you understand the definition of what love means, then you realize, if I love somebody, like I say, you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to cheat on them. You don't want to disrespect them. You don't want to have them looking crazy because you love that person. And I don't think I knew the definition of love. But when I figured that definition out of what love is and what Gia meant to me, you realize I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to see her cry. I don't want to see her feel away. I don't want to disrespect her. I don't want to be controlling. I don't want to be any of those things. And when you realize what that definition is, your outlook of life changes.
I agree with Envy, and I'll add on, because I've explored this in therapy. When you say you can cheat and still love a person, you might, but you don't really love yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, not a lot of time, all the time, men cheat for ego.
Oh, yes.
Like that's it. It's wounded ego. It's something that we're lacking. It has nothing to do with our wives, nothing to do with our girlfriends. It's something that we feel like we're lacking for whatever reason. And that's what we go and do. It's literally just to feed our ego. Nothing more, nothing less.
You think women cheat for the same reason as men, or you think it's different? Like when women cheat, you think they cheat for different reasons?
I think women also cheat for ego. Who doesn't like to have the attention of the opposite sex? Especially when you are at a deficit and you do have holes and you need those holes filled. And most people have slight holes. Not that you're out there thirsty for the attention of the opposite sex, but even if it's of the same sex, when someone pays you a compliment, like, it's nice to be wanted is essentially what I'm saying. So for women, yeah, I mean, I think that if you're with someone and you cheat, I think a big part of it is ego. But then, you know, you'll have people that say that they cheat because the person at home isn't doing what they're supposed to do, you know? And we have a son, Logan, he's 18. So he's starting to date seriously and whatnot now. And I had a conversation with him the other day. And I said, listen, if you commit to a girl and you make her your girlfriend, one thing I do not want you to do is cheat. Do not come to me and tell me that you guys broke up because you cheated on her, because I've raised you better than that. If you decide that you want something else or she's not satisfying whatever needs you have, break up with her and move on to the next. And if within a week you feel the same way about that girl, break up with her and move on to the next. Do not cheat, because you're sacrificing your own integrity when you do that. And that's pretty much a sign of really not loving yourself. When you love yourself, you want to be self-actualized. You want to be your best self.
That's right.
You want to reach your highest potential. You want to be a good person. And you owe that to yourself. You don't necessarily owe it to the other person. You owe it to yourself to do those things. And that's what I'm trying to instill in him as my oldest male child, you know?
Logan, we're going to be breaking up with a lot of girls. Unless he find that one like y'all did early, he going to be breaking up with a lot of girls.
Now, during this time, did anybody get in your DMs? I'm just curious.
When the cheating happened?
Yeah, like, you know, when people were thinking maybe it's, you know, it might be back on the market.
I wasn't on Instagram at the time.
Okay.
I didn't even know how to operate Instagram. I've never been on Facebook. I've never been on Twitter. So
Gia has no social media. She has no Twitter, no Facebook, no
She has
Black
well,
Planet,
now I
no
have
MySpace.
Instagram,
She has
but
Instagram
at the
now.
time, which is probably why he was able to accomplish what he accomplished in all of his deceit. But
He's like, it's not funny.
The book is more about cheating, guys. Can we get? I mean,
This is a very triggering conversation.
It is very triggering.
No, it really is. Because I've heard all of this before.
oh, have you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, it's never mind. I don't even want to talk about it.
But you're right. It is about a lot more than that. And we got to see, like, early on, things that you guys had to work on within yourselves. You know, for you, Envy, when did you get over being so possessive? And because there's one thing about being protective, but then it crosses the line when it's overly done and it feels like you were very jealous and possessive and insecure. How did you manage to cope with and overcome that?
Well, it happened because, I mean, I was DJ Shrimp at first, right? I was 5'4", I had glasses, had braces, I had acne. I wasn't running around, you know. Gia hates when I say this, but like my mom would say, I wasn't the cat's meow. Like I wasn't hollering at nobody. Nobody was hollering at me.
Meow.
That's what my mom would say.
You was doing charity gear. Huh?
Yeah, that's why I'm always like, kudos to Gia.
I thought that he was very cute and, like I said earlier, charismatic.
He was like a fixer-upper.
Oh my goodness. Fixer-upper. Oh my goodness.
He was your first renovation.
That's how we got into real estate.
It was a full gut rehab.
Oh, man.
We got to take these walls down and the floors.
So, you know, I was very insecure. So when she would go out, I would always think, damn, she gonna find somebody that's smarter, that looks better, that does this, that does that. So I was always insecure. So I never wanted her to go out. If she did go out, I never wanted her to wear anything sexy. I kind of wanted to control it. So I was always fearful that she would find somebody else. And I think what changed me, I think she did, you know, to basically say that, you know, I was worthy, that, you know, she wasn't going to leave me for somebody else. And it was just conversation. It was my own insecurity that was affecting and hurting our relationship at the time.
As you got older, you think it was guilty conscience, too? Because you knew what you was doing, and you might have been projecting on her, thinking she might have been doing the same thing?
No, he had been like that since the very beginning.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was insecurity. And then you got to think, she was beautiful. So she had all these different celebs and all these different people hollering at her. So, you know, she would come back and tell me, like, you know, one time, I don't know if we put this in the book, but somebody gave you a watch, right? I'm like, a Movado, a Rolex, or something like that.
Yes.
Just gave her a watch, bought a watch at the mall and gave it to her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like,
while I was
why?
shopping.
He was like, he liked me. I did what any other guy would do. I put it under the truck and ran it over 7 times.
Damn, Envy.
He sure did. I couldn't even give it to his mother or my mother. Like, I understood that he didn't want me to wear it. And the person didn't give it to me directly. I was shopping and I was looking at Movado watches at the time. And he hollered and I turned him down. Then when I left, he went and asked the salesperson, what was she looking at? What was she interested in?
Wow.
And he bought me an Esperanza, a Movado Esperanza.
Okay, that's nice.
He was in
This,
college.
yeah, he was a little bit older though. He was clearly like in his
'cause we
20s or
wasn't buying
something.
Movados in college.
Yeah, and he took the box and the bag and wrote a note and put it on my car. So he had seen me, come from the parking lot, and
What
then
a
it
thoughtful
was
drug dealer he was. What a thoughtful drug dealer.
yeah. So I wouldn't have accepted it from him if he had tried to give it to me. It was on my car, so I brought it home. I was like, oh my God, guess what happened? Like, I told him the story. Rashawn was irate. And literally put it behind his back wheel and ran it over, and then put the car in drive, ran it over again, put the car back in reverse.
I'm talking about King.
You could have donated that watch.
I was like, we could have given it to somebody.
Could have regifted.
Like, goodness
Oh, the Envy now would have
gracious.
sold it.
The Envy now would have sold it.
He would have took that watch.
Yes.
And, look, there was also an instance where he caught you in the club grinding on somebody.
Can we talk
Somebody
about the
was
good
grinding on
stuff,
you.
the nice stuff? Like, gosh, why?
But this is funny to me because Envy is like, he acts really different here than like.
Does he?
I'm changed. I'm
But
evolved.
I would not.
You don't get any doses of his crazy though?
What?
Well, he's.
Who have you been working with the past 12 years?
But you know what it is? Okay.
What is she talking
Envy is
about?
petty. Envy is petty.
He's petty.
But I don't
cross him.
Like certain things that he does. I'm like, Envy was out of his mind.
Well, that night, we were in college, and he had a party at Virginia State. Now, Rashawn saw to it that every single, and I mean every, 100% of the parties that he did while we were in college, he made sure that I was at every single party with him. I was in the DJ booth. I was not allowed to leave the DJ booth. If I wanted an amaretto sour from the bar, he would send little Sean, who is our friend, to the
Sean.
bar to get it for me.
Wow.
Tell her your little short story.
That has nothing to do with this.
It's a little-
We're talking about your book, okay? Real life, real love. All right.
And if I tried to break out of the DJ booth when he wasn't looking, then I would always have two of his friends escorting me to
Oh
make
my
sure
gosh.
that no one kicked it to me.
Like, let me out of this cage.
Yes. So it would be me. Every time we hung out, it would be me and like 7 or 8 dudes. I was always just like the homie. I was always there. And this one night he had a party at Virginia State, and I couldn't fit in the car because he was bringing, his friends for security and whatnot. And that night there was a party at the Armory. I was like, okay, I'm going to the party at the Armory. He was like, no, you're not. I was like, oh, yes, I am. Turned into a big argument. I was like, all right, well, I'll just tell you that I'm not and go anyway. So that's what I did. He's on his way. I'm at the party. I'm dancing with a dude. Little Sean is at the Armory too. He sees him. He calls Rashawn. Rashawn busts a Yui. Now, you know how important this is to him because there's nothing that he loves more
Than
besides
making
me
some money.
than making some money.
We know that.
He forfeited that money, made a U-turn, came back. I'm dancing with the kid. I look up. I see Rashawn charging towards me. The fear of God came over me. And it was as though I felt like my life flashed before me. Like I felt whatever that hormone is, I felt it rush through my body. And he came, he grabbed me. He threw me over his shoulder, caveman style, and then rushed me to like the other side of the dance hall.
See, this is next level. Like,
This is just stereotypical light-skinned nigga shit. I don't know what you're talking about. This sounds normal to me.
next level.
Yeah, I mean, and then we had a conversation where, he made me very well aware how disappointed he was, how hurt he was to see me, I guess just with
Oh, you
someone
didn't
else
realize that while
touching
you was
me.
over his shoulder? You didn't realize I heard you was there?
I'm glad we can laugh about this now.
Thank God, right?
You know how you met Little Sean?
No, how?
When he first moved to Jersey, he moved in.
I don't think we should tell this story because it just makes you sound even more horrible. Okay? I don't think you should tell this story. All right?
That's going to be on the chopping block.
I mean, we could if you want to.
Get it? No,
Now I want to know.
Don't
forget
do
it.
it.
Forget it.
Well, I moved into an apartment complex, and the woman at the apartment complex said, I think you should, watch Envy. And I said, what do you mean, watch Envy? Like, I think you should, just be careful around Envy. And I'm like, all right, I'm thinking she's about to tell me, like, oh, he's a grimy dude, he's a snake, whatever. She was like, because, he's got a boyfriend in this building. And I'm like,
I know what building you moved into.
Yeah, Prospect
Okay,
Towers.
go ahead.
He's
Yes.
He's like, he got a boyfriend in this building, and he looks like you. You're like the same height.
Wow.
And you
has
both
a
got
type.
bald heads. Y'all got the same complexion. And I'm like, what? And she was like, I just see him come over here, and then you just hear moaning. I'm like, oh.
There was no moaning, but
That's what she said.
I went to Sean's house. I would visit Sean, and for a long time they thought that me and Sean, I guess, were gay lovers.
Oh, why? Because of the moaning, probably.
Look at how rumors get started, boy.
I don't know. But
Why were you guys moaning, you and Sean?
we weren't moaning. What's wrong with you? Sean was there with his girl. I wasn't moaning.
Oh my God, man.
Okay. Whatever.
There's nothing positive in the book that you read.
There's a lot in there that's positive,
I know.
man.
Listen, the positive thing
This
is
is a
that you
very
guys are
triggering
still
combo.
together, and that sometimes, to get to the positivity, you got to go through a lot of ugliness.
But that's the thing, right? I already know that it's going to be a lot of judgment. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause people are like, oh, how could you stay through that? And then they're going to try to paint Envy to be some controlling, abusive person. But y'all were young. Like, people don't factor that in.
Well, let's just clarify. When we use the word abusive, that's a heavy word, right? And abuse comes in all different forms. So I understand what you're saying, but he was never physically abusive. And I've never been scared of him. I just knew that his controlling nature was rooted in his insecurity. And I felt as though I could show him enough love that he would eventually get to a point where he would feel secure and understand that he's worthy of all of the love that I give him.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because it took convincing, and I literally had to convince. Like, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I am thrilled to be with you. I am happy that we're in college. I'm like, we plan on getting married, starting a family. Like, but he wouldn't let go of it.
Right.
One of the biggest things I think that came out of this was all the work that he did do on himself, and he was suicidal at a point. That's we know that, right?
Yes.
I don't think that was all because of what was going on with you. I think it was, like I said, it was other things that he was dealing with inside of him that probably got him to that point.
Guess we would have to ask him, because we've never had a conversation of it being about anything besides the threat of losing our relationship.
I would say this. I would say, I used to look at people who committed suicide as soft and sucker. Like, that's what society made you think. Until I got into that predicament where I felt like my life, everybody's life around me would be better if I wasn't here. And I couldn't shake it. And majority of it was losing my wife, losing my family, losing the thing that I knew and that I loved. And I really feel like I didn't want to be there. And I guess it was everything else that we said, like the insecurities that made me do it, the insecurities around me. And I just didn't know who I was as a person.
Ooh, that's powerful. That's the biggest
But
part.
I will say, during all of that, in all those conversations and all those late night talks and with praying, you feel like you realize who you are as a person. And once you figure that out, you figure out who you want to be, who you want to live like, and you don't care about anything else. At one time I used to care what people thought. Now I don't care. As long as my wife and my family's happy, everything else is just white noise behind it.
Just think about how much stronger you guys are as individuals, and your marriage is so much stronger after everything you've been through.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he said something powerful too, because this business will have you living a lie. Because we're characters,
Yeah.
right? So we create these characters that kind of protect the Rashawn and protect the Leonard, and we go home and we one way, but then we out in the street being another way. But you can't do both. Eventually, that negative is going to catch up.
Yeah.
So that's why I think he was going through, like, not only just the threat of losing you, but just like, who am I?
Was that hard for you? Having this dual personality almost?
Yeah, absolutely, because nothing's better now than to not care what people think. I would have to think
freedom.
Freedom. I would have to think about what I was saying on the radio and how it would affect me, how people would look at me. I would have to think about this or think about that instead of just being free and say, hey, it is what it is. Take it how you like it. If you like me, you like me. If you love me, you love me. If you hate me, you hate me. And once I got to that place, life became a whole lot better.
So, to his question, was there anything aside the threat of the loss of the relationship that made you feel as though that was why you were occupying that mental space?
I think it was a little bit of everything. I think it was the insecurities of not being free. I think it was the fact that I was losing my best friend. I think it was the fact that I feel like I disappointed my best friend, disappointed my family, disappointed my kids. So I think it had a lot to do with all of that.
And I think wearing that mask too, because I think a lot of times what we really want to kill is our ego.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily know how to do that if we weren't doing the work. I wasn't doing the work then. It's when I started going to therapy and everything else that I learned how to kill the ego. Before you learn how to kill the ego, only thing you think is, well, like he said, I don't need to be here.
But you said that you wanted to kill the ego. Did you actually want to before you went to therapy and realized that you should kill the ego? You enjoyed the ego.
Yeah, I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that's what I was projecting. I didn't even know that's what I was leading with was ego. Right. I didn't even know that till I sat down and like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. When everything happened and came to the surface, it was like a ton of bricks fell out of the sky and hit me on the head. It was like, wow, he really is damn near two people. Like, he's Rashawn, husband and father in this house, and he gets 10s across the board for that. But when he leaves, there's an ego, there's a bravado, there's a whole persona separate and apart from what I experience in this house. And I've been out with him and whatnot, but this was at a time when things were starting to shift. This was, we just got married and we have 2 beautiful children. And now I'm not going to the clubs with him because even though he would want me to and he would want me to travel, I have 2 kids at home to raise and I wanted to give them all of my free time attention. And then his celebrity started to grow. He became more successful and his dreams became realized. And he went off, I realized later, in that direction, enjoying that, and then also enjoying have the faithful, loving wife and children at home. So it was pretty much the definition of having your cake and eating it too.
And it's probably also difficult. You guys got together so young,
Yeah, 16,
and didn't
15.
experience other relationships really.
So let me tell you, when I found out, Angela, I knew that I didn't want him to be my husband anymore, but I understood how it happened because we were together, like he said, since we were 15 and 16. He was my first and only everything. The furthest I've ever gotten before him was second base. Which is letting a boy go up your shirt, right?
Yeah, we've been to second base, King.
That's what they call it.
Charlamagne has not been to second base. Let me just clear this up right now.
You didn't let him feel on your nips?
No, he has not been to second base.
You haven't exposed him to your nips?
No, he has not.
The camera's in here.
Hey, I'll tell you that though.
No, Charlamagne stuck to
we've
sit.
definitely gone to second base for them easy though.
Yeah, we did that. We did that with
Easy,
MBC though.
we've not been to second base. Goodness
I
gracious.
feel like y'all went to third.
But that was the farthest that I had ever been. So, and he was like virgin-ish.
What's that mean?
He was in a relationship with his first girlfriend. I think they were together for maybe 3 months. And if I'm telling it right, they started but never finished. So he was like virgin-ish.
He tried
right?
and he couldn't handle it.
No, that's not what I said.
I was a turtle. I was slow. I was scared.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
gotta
and
explain that to me, King. I'm just over here,
I was a turtle.
So over here dealing with.
Turtle because I was so slow. I wasn't.
it was nice because
Wait, people called you turtle?
Yeah, I mean that was my nickname.
Oh,
Turtle.
wait, let me write this down. I don't want to forget that.
Shrimp, turtle. Go ahead.
and it was good. I was a turtle too. I lost my virginity to him on our 1-year anniversary, and he made it very sweet and special, and it was really nice. But what were we saying? What did you?
I was talking about you guys were so young, so you had never experienced.
So I understood because it was like he was so inexperienced. We were in high school together every day. We're in college together every day. Then as soon as we graduate, we get married, we have children, and then he's on a path towards his career. And he's out of the house and he's traveling, and now he's around celebrities and being influenced by our hip hop culture, which glorifies having groupies and cheating and always having women around you and being in the club. At that time, you didn't see your favorite celebrity showcasing their wife or their family or speaking on the importance of family the way that you guys do on this platform. And doing that changes lives. I'm sure that you know that.
And we were taught to hide them.
And you were taught to hide them.
Don't tell people you got a girlfriend. Don't tell people you've been in a long-term relationship. They would say that.
Absolutely. Even, young people now on Instagram, they have the same thing. It's like, oh, I'm gonna pretend, or I'm not gonna post. I love you to death, but I'm not gonna post you because I'm trying to do this business, and if it seems like I have a girlfriend, then it's not gonna be successful. It's that mentality. So all of these things contributed to him being put in a position where cheating might have seemed like the route that he wanted to go. And when we talked about it, I understood, because we've been together so long and I know him so well. I love him not necessarily just as like my husband. I love him like he's my brother too. Do you know what I mean? And if it were your brother that got caught cheating, and he came home and told you, like, Angela, I just got caught, she found out. What would be your knee-jerk intuition to do?
I'll cover for him.
Exactly. That's the point. Like, you want to help. You want to be like, well, no, this is what you need to do. You need to go apologize. You need to do this. Start helping him pull those tricks out of the hat. You get protective. So even when he told me, I got protective in a sense. And I wanted to understand why he did it. Now, while at the same time, not wanting to be with him, as his wife, I was devastated. Right. But as his friend, I understood how he was in a place where that happened.
See, a lot of gems in this book, you guys. I was thoroughly entertained, and like I said,
you look stressed.
He does.
Good.
I feel like he's been nervous all morning before you got here.
It's a triggering conversation.
Yes, it is.
If you've ever been a man in that situation and you've caused that kind of harm to your wife and your family, it's.
But I feel like for him, it shouldn't be anymore, because I'm not affected by it.
But every time it comes up, you realize how much I hurt you and how much I hurt our family. Like, writing that book was real difficult because we had to go through early stages of insecurities and things that we laugh at now, but back then you'd be like, gosh, what was wrong with me?
And do you also and do you realize how disappointed you are in yourself? That question you asked, the question, what the fuck was wrong with me? What was I thinking?
All the time. But then I also think, we got daughters. You'd be like, if my daughter brought a guy home like me, what? Like, I wouldn't want my daughter to date a guy like me back then.
Hell no.
Now I'm a totally changed person, different person. Mind frames on a wholly different thing. But back then, I wouldn't want that stress for my daughter.
And what's nice for our older two children, they were maybe 8 and 10 when this happened. So they're well aware of what happened. So it's nice for them to be able to see that something completely devastating can happen and you can survive it if you go about it the right way. If you understand the definition of love, you understand the definition of forgiveness, you work at it, you have that until mind frame. You don't act like you're too good to do those things until. And now they get to enjoy the beauty and the magic of our family. And our house is really magical. And that's why, when we were coming up with the title of the book, I told Abrams, like, that has to be in the title, because I honestly feel like our house is magical. Like, you come into our house and it's just filled with so much love, fun, and happiness all the time. It's always jokes. It's always roasting. Rashawn and I play fight a lot. We joke with our kids. Like, our kids come in and they talk to us for hours. They tell us everything. Madison, who's now out of the house, and she goes to NYU. She's a sophomore. She calls and FaceTimes me 7-8 times a day. Like, it's just this tight unit of a family, and they get to see that, but for forgiveness, but for perseverance, but most importantly,
stop saying but, you turn it on.
But for God, none of this would have been possible. So there's lessons in it for our children specifically to live out what you preach.
Well, I'm glad you're in this space.
But Logan like shit.
Because it probably would have been weird. Envy, he came home without underwear one day, right?
Did you pee yourself out in public?
It was worse than that.
I shot myself a pill one day.
Yeah.
Oh!
Do you notice that?
I remember when that happened. Oh, wait. So wait, tie
he
that
had to
in?
throw his underwear away. And I'm like, any other time you might have been like, why doesn't my husband have on underwear? When he comes home.
The janitor found that janitor. The janitor said, I don't know what's going on in that studio, but there's some strange stuff going on in that studio.
My goodness. The book is out today.
Go get it, man.
Make sure you pick it up. Real life, real love. Get it today.
Life lessons on joy, pain, and the magic that holds us together.
That's right. Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, wherever you buy books, your local bookstores, please Pick it up today.
April 19th.
Yes, and when you do read it, please, what we want you to do is we want you to tell us what you think about the book. Whether it's a 30-second video, tag it and we want to repost it. Whether you love it, whether you hate it, we're going to repost all of them because we love to get you guys' feedback.
Yeah, and I think that y'all going to help a lot of couples. And it's clear that y'all two are meant to be with each other. You know what I'm saying? But not all of y'all out there. Some of y'all going to have to leave the person that you're with
Right.
when they get caught up in these situations. But y'all are different.
We did the
Yeah,
work.
because a lot of people aren't willing to do the work. A lot of people don't have that until in mind. And
Until, that's very important. Until.
it's just until ... You know, and there's also a list in the book. One of my favorite chapters is called The New Deal. And it's pretty much about reparations that the offender has to make after offending their partner. And it's those things that will help to signal to your partner that you just may be worthy of forgiveness and being extended grace.
So what are those reparations? 'Cause the first thing people are going to say is, that, oh, that's why he does the 12 days of Christmas.
You know, that's right. A lot of people do say that.
That's, you know what I'm saying?
But we did that before.
But you know what's funny? And that's the funny thing. We've always done 12 days of Christmas. We just never made it public. And it's not the type of thing that at first I ever wanted to make public because it is grand. But I decided to start posting it because it's not about the material items that he gives me for Christmas. It's about the intention behind it. It's about the thought. You know, he starts shopping almost a year in advance for that. And every gift comes with something special, a little note, a little treasure hunt to find the gift, a prayer, a poem, something that is giving of his heart, not giving of his pocket.
And that's why when you read the book and you hear y'all talk, that's why you understand why he got so upset at Jesus and Mero. That time.
Yes.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Because y'all relationship is so much deeper than that.
Of course, you know, because with their comment, it almost to me suggests as though there's nothing else worthy about him
That's right.
that would signal me to stay aside from what he has to offer financially. And it's a joke, right? But we all know that all jokes are rooted in some truth. And that's what I think their truth was, looking at it from an outsider. I wasn't some Jackie come lately and met somebody with money and was like, ooh, come up. We ground it
From day
out
one,
from
yeah.
day one. You know, I was always there and supporting him and loving him. And if he failed and wound up being a secretary or anything, followed another path, I would still be there.
Yeah, I think he'd been a proctologist.
A proctor.
He does it on the side.
Did that take? It took a beat to get that.
I can't believe he's flirting with me with my wife. Now.
Nah, what are you talking about? I'm just suggesting other career options that you could have taken.
Gracious.
That's all.
I can't believe he's flirting with me with my wife here. This is like you're disrespectful.
Real life, real
Wait till
love.
she
Go
leaves.
get it.
Right, and I just also want to say Charlamagne is not in chapter 69. He
I'm on page 69.
He's not on page 69 either, right? Charlamagne is not in it. There's no love situation with me and Charlamagne in the book, all right? It doesn't exist. But we appreciate you for
In fact,
joining
you got to
us.
say that. Let everybody know that it's in there.
Oh, my goodness. We appreciate you for joining us this morning.
Real life, real love.
Thank you for
Real
having
life,
me,
real love.
guys.
That's right. Pick it up today, and it's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
No, you got to tell this guest I love you before you sign off.
Yes.
Dear Casey, thank you for joining us. I love you.
I love you too.
I love you way more than Charlamagne. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.